Hey there! Welcome to my channel. My name is Crafty Kathy, and I'm so happy and thankful that you stopped in to craft and spend a little time with me today. We are going to be doing some Dollar Tree Vintage Halloween, my favorite. All right, let's jump in. We're going to make a ghost in a jar. Actually, we're going to make two. One is going to be in this Dollar Tree cloche. And then I also have a Dollar Tree jar we're going to use. And this is just one of their little skinny skewers that come out in the summertime. They still have them out right now, by the way. And there's two ways that you can go about making your ghost. You can either use good old paper towels or toilet paper, depending on the size you want. But I'm going to use this cheesecloth. I got this one at Dollar General, but they do have this at Dollar Tree right now. And for the jar that I'm going to use, I love this one from Dollar Tree. It is a perfect size. Now, the first thing that you're going to do is find something round that is going to be the ghost head. And it has to be the right size. I have a couple of different foam balls that I got from Dollar Tree, but I found that they were still too big. What I came up with is to grab one of these small ornaments that also came from Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to glue it to the top of my little skewer because it still kind of wobbled around a little bit, and we didn't want that. So with a little bit of glue and just holding it there for a second, it's going to hold it exactly where I wanted it. And I put a little bit more glue just for safekeeping. The reason why I decided to use a skewer, like to hold my head up, my little ghost head, is because that cloche has a hole in the bottom of it, and that little skewer fits in it perfectly, so you don't even have to do anything. So the next thing I'm going to do is measure where I want the skewer to hit. Now, for the cloche, you don't want your ghost to be all the way up at the top. You want to give it a little bit of leeway, like a little bit of room. So I'm just kind of marking with my finger where I need to cut this off at. I looked around to try to find a couple more round things that I could use for the bigger jar, and I came up with this pumpkin. It's not perfectly round, but it's good enough. It's going to be covered. I will have to spray paint this, which kind of worried me because you know that if you spray paint foam, it usually just swivels up into total nothing. And then I have this white pumpkin here, and I'm going to pop a skewer in it. That way I have three different size ghost heads, so one of these is bound to work. The two pumpkins that were orange, I took them outside and gave them a really quick spray paint. And I was totally right. That one orange pumpkin swiveled up and looked crazy. The way that we're going to make this is we're going to use some Mod Podge, and we're just going to put a little bit of water in it. That's all you need. I also had this other stuff that I had bought a few years ago, or actually I think Plaid sent it to me, and it's called Stiffy, and it's basically the same thing. It's like glue with maybe like Elmer's glue with a little bit of water mixed, and it made the exact same thing as I have here. And I figured since I had this stuff called Stiffy, why not just add a little bit of it to the top. And I'm going to stir this around so you can see the end of my paintbrush, and that can kind of tell you the consistency. You don't want like full-on glue, but you don't want it to be so watered down that it's not going to work either. With that big jar, I chose to flip it upside down and like the top of the jar actually be the bottom. But with that being said, there was no hole down there that I could just pop the skewer in. So what I did was grab a little piece of, I guess this is a cork off of one of my crafts, I'm not really sure. I just cut it in half because I didn't need like a huge lot of it. Just something that I could glue down on the bottom so that I could stick that skewer in. And look at this Quasimodo pumpkin. Isn't that hilarious? I tried to squeeze it thinking maybe, I could do something with it, but who am I kidding? Another reason why I wanted to put my cork down first is so I would know exactly how far off to cut that skewer. So I'm just kind of setting it down and gauging where I want it to land in that jar. But enough of all that blabbing. Let's get to making our ghost. I promise you it's going to go quick from now on. So I just rolled out my cloth, and here it's already kind of rolled over on itself once, and then I rolled it over even one more time. And it doesn't matter if you want to put these on like 2 pieces of your cloth at one time. I wouldn't do like wads of it at a time because it's all going to dry the same and it's not going to flow and look right. So here I just started off and I wet it. I got the whole thing wet and then I basically wring it out. Remember, the more wet that you have this fabric, the longer it's going to take it to dry. So just keep that in mind too. On the first ghost that I did, I saturated it like crazy. And on the bigger one, I didn't do that and it worked better. And I wanted to add in there that this square that I have is 8 by 8. I measured it out just so I could let you guys know for reference. And you see here, I am totally saturating this all over and just squeezing every little bit of the glue out that I can. And then I will take and straighten my cloth back out and just lay it right over the top. I'd like to take just a minute to welcome every single one of y'all to my channel. Whether this is the first time you've ever been here or the millionth time, I am so happy that you stopped in to chat and craft and just have a good old time with me today. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, I would love for you to hit that little red subscribe button and become a part of our family. We are just on a crazy crafting journey, and I would love to do it together. And if you are getting some type of inspiration out of this video, please give me a big thumbs up, because when you hit that like button and when you subscribe, it really helps me out on YouTube, and I can't thank you enough. And also, if this is the first time that you've ever been to my channel, I would love for you to leave me a comment. I'm a little bit behind on my comments, but I promise you I am reading them. I always enjoy meeting with you guys and having a little conversation in the comment section. Now, you guys saw how much I covered this smaller ghost, and he's finished. He's totally done. And here I'm just making, you know how like the ghost will have like little pleats in him? Literally all I did was just kind of pinch it here and there to give it that look when it dries of it having like, you know, like a ghost, like the little, you know, like the sheet is just draped over him. So now let's move on to this bigger one. And we're basically going to do the exact same thing. I realized when I was doing that smaller one that it didn't matter if you do it like 1 sheet at a time or if you know, double it up and do 2 at a time. It honestly did not matter because this gauze is so thin. And so with this one, I believe that each one that I put down was doubled up. And just like I did on that first one, I was just checking to see where this needed to be cut so I would know where it would hit at. And just for reference, the other one, remember I had cut it 8 long. This one is 12 long. So it's just a little bit longer. And I did on this second one, I didn't drench it as much as I did that first one. And this bigger one actually dried a lot faster than that other one did. And you see I've got him here and I'm just draping him exactly like I did the other. I do have to add the comment that on this second one, I did kind of play around with it a little bit more than I did the first one. And I would move my cloth around. For instance, this one would be a little bit jacked up in the back. And then on the next one, I would make it to where it would be kind of jacked up on one side and then vice versa, just all the way around. Because I felt like if I did it that way, that the cloth would just kind of fall at all different lengths and it would look better. Anyways, that's kind of what I went with, and mine turned out really gorgeous. So I'm doing the exact same thing here as I did on that first one, so I'm not going to bore you and make you watch every single little bit of it. But just know that I set these to the side and I left them alone overnight so that they could absolutely dry. So now we're ready to work on some different parts of this, and I am going to be using these Halloween fairy lights that I got. They are orange and purple on the same string, and these are at Amazon. 24 of these in this pack, and they're only $8.99. I'll leave the link in the comments below, and it's also in my Amazon store. These come out to be like 30 cents per each string light, and that's way cheaper than Dollar Tree. Also, I took some of these little mushrooms that I got from Dollar Tree, the teeny weeny ones and the ones that are a little bit bigger, and we're going to place some of those around our ghost. But I couldn't leave the tops of these pink. I think I got these around Easter. So what I did was I'm just using a color called Muscadine Wine, and it is a Dixie Belle color. It's this beautiful like burgundy color for the tops of my mushrooms. And then the stem part, I just painted them this color called Layered Chocolate by my favorite DIY paint. Here we are the next day when I got my ghost, and they were hard as a rock, especially that smaller one because I used so much more. I saturated it so much more with the Mod Podge. And I just wanted to show you, see, mine was a little bit longer. And so the first thing we got to do is trim this down. Now, when I cut mine down, I did not do it any pretty way or any particular way. Honestly, it does not matter. It's going, if you cut it straight across, it's still not going to fall totally at the same length because that would kind of look weird anyway. What I did was just cut mine, and you see I'm not trying to be careful about cutting it. I'm literally just chopping it off of there so that it's going to hit where I want it to hit. And I would just kind of grab the end of the gauze and kind of pull it apart a little bit so that it would fan out and kind of flare out to the way that I wanted it to drop. I'm ready to draw the faces on my little ghost, and I thought that I had too much gauze on this biggest one, so I started to take that top layer of gauze off. I just peeled it back, and it hit me all of a sudden that, wow, this would look so good to have like a bride ghost. That would be so cool. And then I remembered we are doing vintage and we don't need bride ghost. It just wouldn't look right. But anyways, I didn't do anything special whenever I was doing the Sharpie here. I literally just made 2 circles and the mouth. But with my piece being as stiff as it was, I felt like it was best to just take a little bit of my black DIY paint, and I used the color Black Velvet, and I had the end of it on like a very fine detailed brush and just kind of dabbed it on. You don't want to be too perfect with this. If you ever looked at the old vintage ghost, none of their faces were perfect looking. Now it's time to pull out the lights. For my larger ghost, I decided to put like one of those puck lights that they sell at Dollar Tree shining down in the very top of that jar so that it will be illuminating my ghost. But on the smaller one and on the cloche, what I wanted to do is put my little string lights all the way around the bottom, really in no particular order. These are wired, so they are very easy to manipulate, and I just kind of went around in a circular fashion, and if I ever needed just a little bead of glue, I would put a little bead. And don't worry, you're not going to fry these lights. They take hot glue very well, and so I would just put a couple little beads of hot glue here and there to hold them so that they would be underneath my ghost and illuminate it. The next thing that I did was grab a tiny, tiny amount of Spanish moss. I'm going to just put down a little bit of glue and stick that in the front. And then I'm going to take a couple of these little mushrooms and I'm going to place them right down all around that. I can't remember what this tool is called. I don't remember if it's called a scoring tool maybe. But it's basically, well, you can see what it looks like. It just has a little rounded end on it. I dipped that in white paint and dabbed that on the top of the mushrooms. And I felt like this ghost needed to be dirtied up just a little bit. So I took some brown ink that I have, and I just kind of went along the bottom of his little sheet, just kind of here and there, not anywhere in particular. And then in the areas that were recessed, I put a little bit on my finger and rubbed it in that area so that it would be shaded, and I stuck him right back down in the middle of the jar. I finished him off by gluing the battery pack down underneath because there's an area where it will fit perfectly where I can turn it off and on when I want to. Then on to the larger ghost, I did the same thing with the Spanish moss. I placed it mostly in the front area there, and then I cut those mushrooms down. I left just a little bitty bit of the wire sticking out so that it would have a better connection. And I placed 2 large ones and 1 small one in front of my ghost. I have been shopping entirely too much at TEMU lately for Halloween, and I found these glow-in-the-dark ghosts, and I remembered that it had a glow-in-the-dark bat. And what's more vintage than ghosts and bats? So I thought that the bat would look so good here, and I grabbed one of my very, very small pumpkins. That's from Dollar Tree also. I glued it down in the front, and then I glued my little bat right kind of hovering over it. To finish it off, I took some of this ribbon that I got from TEMU, and it just screams vintage to me because it's just that stuff we used to have with the vintage decor. It's orange and it's black, so I just kind of twined them together, like wound them up together, and I glued that around the bottom portion, and that one is complete. And then with the other one, I decided to use the pumpkin ribbon that I got from TEMU also, but I have seen this one at the Dollar Tree, and I hope you like my first 2 DIYs. The second DIY, and the third actually, is nowhere near as lengthy as the first one. I'm sorry, it just had so many steps and little hints to give. What we're going to do is take this cardstock that I get from Hobby Lobby, and I think that this is just the epitome of a vintage look, the orange and the black stripes. I'm going to cut this where it's 1.5 inches wide. Then I'm going to turn it sideways, and on my little ruler here, it has these little squares that are either 1/4 of an inch or 1/2 inch. And I'm going down 1/2 inch, which is every other of these little squares in the middle, and using my little scoring tool to score it. You don't want to push too hard here because if you do, it's going to cut this paper. And what we're creating is a rosette, and you definitely do not want to cut it all the way through because it's going to mess it up. Now, if you like a little bit of a tighter look, you can do these on every little square that you see there. But I did mine every other square because I just like the way it looks when it's 1/2 inch. Another little tip is if you flip it over like I just did, you can actually see your score lines a little bit better because that black and white is so vivid that sometimes I get my marks off, and I wanted to make sure I had this right. Then you just fold it over on itself just like a fan. You go frontwards, backwards, and frontwards, backwards all the way down. And I'm going to make 2 of these total. Once I have both of my pieces fully fanned, or whatever you want to call that, you just take the ends and you connect them together. I like to use hot glue down one side and the other piece fits on there perfectly. Now, once that is dry, you have one longer piece and you're simply going to bring it around and glue those two sides together. So in essence, you've just created one large circle. Just hold on to it until that hot glue dries. Then you're going to bring that whole piece to the middle, just like you see me do here. A lot of people find it easier to kind of hold once, like on the sides, and bring it in. I like to put a little bit of hot glue in the very center and just hold it there until that glue cools, and it will give you a good strong hold. I love the vintage pictures from Johanna Parker, and that's what this cat is. There was also owls, and she has this printable for free on her website. So I just printed that out on cardstock and I cut the cat's head out. I'm going to go around with this brown ink just all the way around the edges, just because it gave it a little vintage flair in my mind. Then I'm going to take my little kitty cat and glue him right in the center of my rosette. Then I took just a little bit of my matte Mod Podge and this very, very small detail brush. I have these in my Amazon store in case you need some of these. They are excellent to have in your crafting arsenal. And I'm just going to put a little bit on certain details, like inside the ears and on that little spot that's on his forehead. And I'm going to add this Dollar Tree glitter. It's the one that comes out. Actually, I think this color is out all year, but I know for a fact they have it out at Halloween. I'm just going to add a little bit to the top of it and then dump the excess back in my glitter. I remember so much of my vintage Halloween decor was very glittery. Then I'm going to take some of this orange tulle, and this is the one from Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to kind of fold it back and forth and squeeze it in the middle, almost like I'm making a little makeshift bow. And I did that for a total of 3 times. And I'm going to place it together as if it is a bow. But by doing it this way, I'm having it kind of flare out on all sides, and it just looks right to me. I do it in a crisscross pattern, almost like a cross, I guess you could say. And then I did it one more time to make it go out in all directions. Then when I sat back and looked at it, I was very pleased with just doing it these 3 times. And so I grabbed a pipe cleaner, and mine is white, but it honestly doesn't matter because it's going to be covered up and you're never going to see it. I tied it together as tight as I could in the middle, and then I'm just going to fluff it out as if it were a bow. Then here you see I have one of these plaques, and this one is a Dollar Tree plaque. I already have it painted black from a previous craft, and I'm just going to put a pretty big glob of glue right in the center, and I'm going to place my little ribbon or my tulle down right smack dab in the center and hold it until it cools. I want to put my rosette right in the center, but I wanted it to kind of come out 3D like, so I took a tumbling tower block, cut it in half, and then I'm just going to glue that one on top of the other so that it'll pop out enough and stick my little kitty cat right in the center. If you've been around my channel for any length of time, you know that I love to make like key holders or just little knick-knack type holders where I can stick my stuff. So I'm taking this button and I have this little, I guess you call it a cup hanger or like a little cup hook. I'm going to drill a little pilot hole down in the bottom, and where I have taken that little cup hook, I stuck it inside one of the holes on that button, and I'm just going to screw it right in so we can hang keys on this or whatever we want to hang on it. I couldn't finish this craft without adding some lights. I always like to put my battery packs on the back where I can unscrew it and change the batteries if I need to, and I can flip it off and on really easily. I just kind of wound this at the bottom part of the tool. That way it would kind of glow up through the tool and look great. And then toward the end of the strand of lights, I wound it around that rosette a couple of times so that it would also illuminate that. In order to put that battery pack on the back, I had to kind of bring it around the side. And so that I could hide that cord, I just put a little bit of my black DIY black velvet paint over the top of it, and it blends right in. Nothing says vintage Halloween like candy corn, and I wanted to add something to the top, so I got these little candy corn pieces off of TEMU, and I'm just going to put one right up at the top to finish off this quick and easy little hanger. I told you these were quick from now on. I hope you like it. For my third DIY, I just grabbed a paperback book from the Dollar Tree. I ripped the spine off of it because it just looked old and vintage to me. I've had this book for years and years, so I definitely got my dollar out of it. I let it fall open where it kind of wanted to. I didn't try to force it open. I'm going to take this piece of cardstock that I got from Hobby Lobby. I'm just going to use my regular Elmer's glue stick. I'm going to go all the way around my book pages, paying careful attention to the edges, and I'm going to place my page down there, and I'm going to kind of press in the middle portion to make sure that it's going to fall into place just as if it were a book page. Then the excess that was hanging over, I just cut it down as close as I could with my scissors, and then I held my book off of the side of my table and used my hand sander and literally sanded it down until it was smooth with all the other pages. I even closed the book again just to make sure that it would bend right. Then the next step that you're going to do is basically put whatever you want on the front. I got some vintage Halloween cards from TEMU, and that's what this owl is, and I absolutely love it. So I put it right smack dab in the middle of the right side. And then these little wooden pieces, they're ornaments, I guess you could say. They also are from TEMU, and they are very vintage and just have that gorgeous vintage flair that I love. And I thought that it looked best to put 3 of those. But like I said, if you don't have these certain things, just think of different things that you could use that are vintage that would go in the middle. One of the easiest things that I can think of is like buying Halloween cards or getting these off of TEMU. I'll try to find these on TEMU and link them down below. I think they were like $2 for 12 of them or something. And of course, that's where I got all this different glitter and bows and all this cool stuff that I have here. I wanted to outline these because I thought it was going to look best. I was going to use the black to go around my owl. And then I thought, the orange looks so much better. So I just put a little bead of glue across the top, down the sides, all the way around my owl picture, just to kind of accentuate it. If I wouldn't have done something like this, it would have looked so plain. And if you are a huge vintage Halloween lover, you will know that this is right up the alley of all the stuff that we used to have. Well, I say we, like I was born in 77, so when I was little, this was our decorations back in the late 70s, you know. And it just brings me back to that simpler time. And I've noticed that in the comments, every single person that loves vintage Halloween will say, it just reminds me of my childhood. Ditto. That's exactly why we love it so much. I wanted to outline my little pieces here with the black. And now in hindsight, I kind of wish that I wouldn't have, or what I wish I would have done is highlighted the little witch up there on the top in black and the little boy on the bottom. But I wish I would have highlighted my pumpkin in the orange color, because once I got all three pieces highlighted in the black, I sat back and kind of looked at it and I was like, it just didn't look right. It almost reminded me of, like, I don't know. I'm not going to say, because if I say it, then it'll be in your mind. But it looks like it's connected there. You see the boy and the pumpkin, like, literally look like a big circle 8 or something. So it drove me crazy, but not crazy enough to change it at this point. I just want to give you the inspiration, and if you get a different idea, run with it, you know. So I'm going to go all the way around the top portion and do the exact same thing and just highlight it. Now I'm going to outline everything with my beautiful lights. I really do wish in hindsight that I would have put the lights down first and then put my ribbon on top. But like I always say, sometimes the crafts just don't go that way. I don't sit and plan them out, you know, before I do them. I know a lot of creators do that, but I just can't be that person, because you know, sometimes you can sit back and look at something and be like, oh my goodness, that's terrible, or that would look great if I had this. So I'm not a planner. I just kind of fly by the seat of my pants and go with what looks good to me at the moment. When I got there at the middle, I just kind of went back and forth with my little wire, because I wanted the most lights there. And then after I got all the wire finished putting on the middle, I just kind of squeezed it together and put a little bit of glue to hold it on. I did my best to go around and kind of hide the wire the best that I could, but it really didn't matter, because this is going to be for my grandson, and he couldn't care less if you could see wire or not, you know. So it's all good. My grandbabies are the ones that get all of my DIYs, especially when it comes to like Halloween and Christmas. During the rest of the year, it doesn't really matter if he gets them or not. He's okay with it or not, you know, but definitely at Halloween, he has to get all of them. I did put one more piece of this ribbon down the center. Nothing says vintage like buttons, and I have so many. I get most of them at Dollar Tree. I put one black one on each of the 4 corners. And then if you've watched me before, you know that I always like to put one button and then 2 smaller ones like together, but kind of catty-cornered. I just think it gives it some kind of a little pizzazz. I don't know, but that's just a personal preference. Some people don't even like buttons. I couldn't leave the sides of this book just willy-nilly, so I decided to go back with this brown ink and just kind of rub it over the sides to make it look like they were old and vintagey. I made sure that I could close my book up really nice and that anything that would be seen was definitely finished, and I plan just to set this out like as an open book for decor. If you stuck with me through all of today's video, I just want to thank you so much. I appreciate every single one of y'all for coming and spending time with me today. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, because I would love to have you. And if you did find inspiration in this video, please give me a big thumbs up, because it really helps me. And don't forget to leave me a comment. I love to get together with you guys in the comment section. Hey, if you're not much for leaving a comment, just leave me a heart emoji, because that also counts and it helps me out on YouTube. I am going to be changing my videos back to 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I had been doing 7:30 for the summer months, but now that we found ourselves headed toward the fall, it's best that we go ahead and do it at 7 o'clock. That's all for this video. I'll see you guys back here next time, Lord willing, and the creek don't rise. Did you know that if you are on a phone or a tablet that you can click on my face up here at the top and become a subscriber of my channel? You sure can, and I would love for you to do that. Also, you can click on this video or this Halloween playlist and it'll take you there right when this one's finished. I love you guys. God bless you and your families.